Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Got a great show for you today. Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter will be here. We're going to get Jarquez Carter announcement later today, which we are all geeks for, so that should be fun. But first, and today's a good day for this, are you the guy that goes to the Buckeye games with a noon kickoff, sun shining, and then when you leave the stadium, say, what, 7 o'clock? Can't find your glasses? I was that guy. 2 prescription pair of sunglasses gone through at Buckeye games. Will never happen to me again, and that is because of Goodr sunglasses. Goodr. Stylish sunglasses starting only $25 a pair. Get multiple. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun. A 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. You can see right here, I have my pair. Call me Tarmac Daddy. They all have cool names like that. Dave's got some cool ones. Vintage-inspired shades. Like I said, they don't slip, they don't bounce. There's a new product they have called the Retro G, and they're always kind of keeping them trendy here. Available in 4 colors. Also available in different sizes, small, medium, and large, depending on how you like to wear your glasses. And you can get a great deal right now if you want to show support to this show and try a pair. Goodr is giving Bucknuts listeners free shipping. Go to goodr.com, goodr.com/Bucknuts, and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. 30-day money-back guarantee at 100% satisfaction as well. Seriously, if you are the type that used to do what I do, but like stop at 7-Eleven or Krauser's or Stop and Go, whatever you call it here, and buy yourself okay, when teacher asks, look at these things. First of all, they come in a nice little packaging here. Look at these Goodrs, $25. All right. Teachers asked me to try them on. Look at this. Pretty smooth. Not really good at class. There you go. Not bad. $25, man. Are you kidding me? The 2 pairs I lost, I just sleep on the couch. So these guys don't need any of that. Bill Kurelic, Mark Porter. Gentlemen, it is the nicest day of the year in the state of Ohio right now. It is impressive. 72 and sunny. Feels like Coronado and San Diego, which is my favorite place on the earth. Another place I'd like to be today, Bill, Newberry, Florida. Central part of the state, west of Gainesville. I think Andrew Ivins actually lives there. But who else lives there, Bill? Jarquez Carter. Today is the day he will announce his college destination. You have rolled a crystal ball there, and everyone's seen that. So let's pretend there's some anticipation here and set us up for the day.
Well, he is announcing 5 p.m. and he is announcing on 247 Sports YouTube channel. So that's great as well. So everybody on this podcast or anybody else for that matter that has the internet, they can watch Jarquez Carter announce his college choice again, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this 247 Sports YouTube channel. He has made official visits to Florida, Penn State, UCF, Ohio State, and Miami, and I believe I got that in the exact order that he made those official visits to. All the crystal balls now, I rolled a crystal ball, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, and they are all now at Ohio State. So that certainly vibes well for the Buckeyes. And he's a guy that, some people thought, well, would they take him or, how good is he? Well, I said, I don't know, a week and a half ago, whatever, that he is a take. In fact, I've said that he is a take by all 5 schools on his list. If he were to want to decide to go to Miami later today instead of Ohio State, he could go to Miami or he could go to Florida. But I think he's going to go to Ohio State. And, Mark had the video of him, our last podcast before that. And I know Mark is really impressed with him, as am I. And it would be a great addition if he were to announce for Ohio State today.
Mark, he's a little bit of a smaller guy inside. they do have a nice blend of defensive linemen here. I think we learned on this will be the 6th guy if they do pick him up. Your thoughts as we check out a little bit of video here.
Yeah, actually diving into this video because we watched the raw cut the last couple of times. Boy, getting deep into his film study, he is who he is, meaning he is all get off and explosion. We're going to watch the pass rushing clips here. Look at the move to the inside there on the tackle. And it looks like in the same series on the next play, he does a move to the outside of the tackle. So he proves to you on back-to-back snaps against a pretty good player, he's got some pass rush ability. And the motor and the just chase down ability. Look at these plays where he chases these plays almost like a linebacker from sideline to sideline. And it's almost the hustle where he's coming from backside. And this play is thrown on a screen pass. And look at him come flying down the field. He looks like a tailback running in space. So I'll take a little bit of that undersizedness, like you said, in exchange for the explosion and the speed and the things that come with it. Because, when you're looking at the defensive line class from Ohio State this year, there's a lot of different types. There's long guys on the edges. There's linebacker types that are playing defensive end. There's a big run stuffer. Now you have this quick, penetrating, active, very aggressive. His body language is nasty. I mean, he's really a football player's football player. Throw out the size or whatever. And I don't think he couldn't get to 300 pounds and still retain some of this.
Bill, your thoughts in terms of when you say he was a take, they do have other guys in the class that it just seems like an interesting group of dudes. He may be a little smaller. London's a little bit different. Do you think that this is how they intended it? Have they changed their standards? I know a lot of people think after Larry Johnson and the rest of the staff kind of struck out's a strong word, but they went after some more high-profile types in the last few recruiting cycles and didn't do as well. This time it seems like they focused in on guys that are a little bit more realistic, and they've nailed them. Or am I reading too much into the cycle?
Well, I think certainly they didn't get every defensive tackle they wanted the last few cycles, but overall I think they did pretty well at defensive tackle. It was defensive end edge guys that they kind of missed on. Keon Keeley and Damon Wilson, that group and all, where they were maybe going to get at least one, if not two or three, all three of those guys, and Angalea, it was more the edge and end guys. I think they've done pretty well at defensive tackle, and I think they had a plan this year, and Jarquez Carter fit that plan. Trajan Odom, really good addition. They beat out Oregon, among others, for him. Maxwell Roy, he had a good list, and at one point everybody thought he was going to Michigan, so Ohio State beat out Michigan for him. So we're talking about guys, providing they get Jarquez Carter, they will have beaten out in-state schools, Miami and the Florida Gators. So these guys aren't fallback plan B guys. These guys are very good prospects.
No, the Zion Grady pickup is going to end up being enormous. I think that's a fact. All right. Bill, let's make sure on this. He's announcing today at 5 p.m. Eastern at his high school. Is that correct?
That is correct. He will have the hats on the table, he told me, kind of the traditional way of announcing. And again, it will be on the 247 Sports YouTube channel. So you can watch it there, everyone.
All right, Bill. One storyline that I think we need to address, and we tend to have to do this from time to time. Naeem Offord, the number 2 cornerback in the country. I know that because the number 1 cornerback country's mom just asked me to try on some sunglasses. And if your kid is the number 1 ranked player at any position, I will put on any kind of sunglasses you want at any time for nothing. What do you think about his recent comments, Bill? I knew this was going to happen. I think everybody did. When you get a kid from Alabama to commit, first of all, not very common. Secondly, Alabama's making a surge now. I think everyone was off the Kalen DeBoer replacement bandwagon, and now you're getting stories about, he was the right guy to replace Saban because they've had a little recruiting success. He's come out and said he might want to look around. Can you clarify what you believe to be the truth at this point? And we will take your word for it.
Well, I I don't think there's been any question that he's going to look a little bit, at least a little bit. I mean, he made an official visit. This is after he committed to Ohio State. He made an official visit to Alabama, and also before that made an unofficial visit to Alabama. Since then, Auburn is really working hard to try to flip him, and Oregon is as well. That happens when you're the number 2 cornerback in the country and you are from the state of Alabama. It makes sense that Alabama and Auburn would be involved. The most recent talk, speculation, is that Auburn and Oregon are the 2 schools that have the best chance to flip him. And you always worry about Oregon because of NIL, and they are using NIL extremely well right now. You worry about Auburn, some extent NIL, but because that is a home state school for him. And I think I've been asked, gosh, I don't know how many times recently, what is your worry meter as far as Naeem Offord flipping? How great is it? Where is it at? And I would say, again, that he is someone that I'm keeping an eye on. Right now, my worry meter would still be at slight, but we've got a long ways to go. It's about a half year till that first early signing period at the beginning of December this year, not in middle to late December. So it's going to be a situation where Ohio State has to continue to recruit him, and they have been and will do so. Tim Walton does a great job, and right now he's in the class. And right now, I would, if I had to predict right now, I'd predict that he stays in the class, but it's going to be a ride until early December.
I think he actually, Malik Archer, I know, lives near Auburn. I can't tell you exactly where dude lives. But here's another thing. Let the kid enjoy the process, take every visit, eat every steak, be a kid. I agree with that. Mellow 7, reach out to his parents and find out how they feel about Auburn. That's all I'm going to say. I hope he means Bill, because I don't want anyone on this thread reaching out to his parents. That could be a little bit of a...
His family has said that they love Ohio State. I mean, we've talked about it. How many family members? It was I think an Ohio State record almost came up to see Ohio State. Yes, 9. So they love Ohio State, but again, these other schools are not going to stop.
All right, Bill Baldwin has a question for you, Mark Porter. How much do verbal and signed commitments really matter anymore? Well, signed commitments matter. You can get out of them, but there's a process you got to go through. Once you sign, you're toast. Verbal commitments, Mark, do they mean as much as they used to? Offers, do they mean as much as they used to?
I'd say emphatically no. And that's scary because if we went back to last year in December when we had those signing days, that second signing day in December, it was a crazy couple of days because it was like final offer. Remember that deal or no deal? Everybody's got an offer right now and an amount they're sitting on, even the Sanchez. But when those schools are coming down to that deadline and they lose a player and money becomes available, or they lose a couple players and money becomes available, they're just not going to sit on that cash and say, whatever. Sometimes they make ridiculous offers to players that are committed elsewhere, and that's a game changer. In the past, you didn't have that factor to pull people away and help them decommit, but Benjamin Franklin is going to have a lot to do with people decommitting this year, and I am looking at this class, and I'm wondering how much that plays in, because if you look at how all these classes are structured, not everyone's getting paid a ton of money. Some of the guys at the bottom of the class are not, I guess, signing these big deals. And you know what? Someone may offer them a big deal come signing day and say, you know what? I bet you that kid would like an extra 50 or 100,000, and that's going to be a game changer. So I think that's what we have to sit here and put our seatbelts on and see how this happens. And hopefully we have guys locked up enough where it doesn't factor Ohio State as much. But I think at other colleges it could be a little bloodier.
I would read yesterday's boarding house. If you're a premium member, we had I talked to a guy who talked to me about, it's kind of like slotting in some respects, in that when you're at the top of the food chain like Ohio State and you're going after the best of the best, a guy you have ranked third on your board may be by far the number one player on another team's board, and they may be willing to, back the Brinks truck up for that guy, whereas in your slotting, he may not be quite as high. So
I think players are going to get over-evaluated and overpaid. And they say exactly what you said. And I can't believe they're going to pay our 7th-ranked player that much. They're out of their minds. And that's the other part of the evaluation piece. And the more, this college football syncs up with the NFL, in the NFL, it's not like these college teams have said, hey, we all agree to take one first-round player and then we'll all take one second-round player. No, let's see how many. Oregon is simply saying, how many first-rounders can we get under wraps this year in that world of 5-star, 4-star, wherever? And, can they buy 5? Can they buy 10? Well, what's that leave for the rest of college football if they're willing to, and it's not a guaranteed process, but that slotting and this new era out here gets a little – this is fun for some people. I don't know if it's fun for our fans.
Quick comment.
Also, Dan, we've talked about this before. Not all 5 stars are created equal. And I've used the example visually of there are some 5 stars here. There are some 5 stars here, and there are 5 stars here. Justin Scott last year, defensive lineman from the Chicago area, committed to Ohio State. He was a 5-star, and Ohio State considered him a 5-star. But to them, he wasn't a 5-star here. When Miami came in, they came in with an offer that had him clearly as a 5-star here. And Ohio State was not willing to do that in that case. You've got a Devin Sanchez or a Naeem Offord. I think in just about everybody's book, they are 5 stars here. You go to the max. So, they're not all created equal, and different boards have different levels for each kid.
Mark, you made a comment earlier about about Oregon, and I'm not sure if you know this, and you may have been essentially quoting him, but I saw an interview with Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, at some point in time earlier on in his career, was with Alabama, and he said that Nick Saban told him the difference between the NFL and college is in the NFL, you get 1 first-round draft pick every year. In college, you get as many as you can get, so go after them. And that was before the NIL. So Dan Lanning took that mentality to Oregon and put a swoosh on his shoes, if he didn't already, and I think the rest is evolving history. Go ahead.
I thought that was an Urban Meyer saying back in the day about the first
I don't
round.
think it was.
I think it was. It might have been twisted that why don't you go to the NFL? Same type of thing. But let's be honest. How many of these kids can you afford that are 5 stars? It's a salary cap. It's who has the biggest. Yeah, it's really.
No. Where? Ohio State can afford every single one of them.
We hope at the end of the day when this new NIL comes out 3-4 years from now that we see the first round littered with a lot of these kids you paid for. I know there's staffs out there that are going the other way. Like, you know what? Give me the 3rd or 4th ranked guy on the board and I'll pay him. And I bet you I have some of those guys that are actually top of the board in a couple of years. And I bet you I can get more of those guys. So that might be due to smaller schools and the way they build. But, I know Bill Belichick was famous for wanting more second-round draft picks. Like, I'll take the 2nd or 3rd guy at each position. Who says that the rankings are actually right? How do we know coming out of college we got this thing evaluated right? So, fun to watch. That's all I will say that. And it's going to be plenty of fuel for this podcast for many a days.
I would say this to that before I read our second ad. I think that's what the transfer portal is for now. If you make a mistake, you go and fix it. Especially when you have the most money. Keep in mind, just because you go into the portal, once you make a mistake, if anyone's ever been flush with cash, it's easier to make a mistake when you have a lot of money in the bank than when you don't, because you can pay for the mistake. Had the NFL not gone to a salary cap in the early 90s, my Cowboys, when they won the Super Bowl the first time, had the youngest team in the league. They would have been 9 Super Bowls in a row. theoretically. But everyone came and bought all their players because the younger guys, that Cowboys team had 19 guys who ended up making a Pro Bowl, okay? 8 of them made it on different teams because people got paid. The good thing is if we can afford to keep doing this, we will stay at the top. Speaking of staying at the top, I don't know if you guys got the chance to watch yesterday's episode with Dave Biddle and Matt Baxendale, the People's Champ. But the best way to learn a language is immersion. That's what you're living where the language is spoken and using it every day. But if it's not in the cards this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. Babbel is your best for learning how to speak a language online. I bring up Bax because he told a story 6 weeks before his trip to France last year. He learned French on Babbel, went and had a great trip, and we didn't even time it out for Bax to be on the show for this, but it was wonderful. Learning actually makes a sound. In 2024, what if you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. Babbel can help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Imagine what you can do in a full year. Like I said, just look to the People's Champ who went over to France and now is basically a French pseudo-citizen because he learned French here and took it there, and it was great. We have a special limited time deal for our listeners right now. 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/bucknuts. Get up to 60% at babbel.com/bucknuts, BABBEL.com/bucknuts. And I see this dude, we don't really care. It's insufferable. Probably takes about 15 seconds of your day up. If it's insufferable, find another show, dog. Yep. Jeez, Mark. All right.
Let's about ex-wife transfer portal, so I got a little ornery.
That's okay. William. If kids risk their futures on teams that are going to lose 3 or 4 games for more money, technically they are losers, not winners. Winning matters. Do you think winning and losing still plays the same role that it used to in recruiting? Because Ohio State, by every single measure here this year, for example, is pegged to be a playoff team. Ohio State, if you look at the past, I think we looked this up, 1 or 2 years, if you use the new playoff system, they've only missed the playoffs 1 or 2 years since 1903. Do you think it matters?
Aren't there 120 or so Division I schools and only 1 champion? So, define loser in that group of, teams. There's a lot of conference winners. There's a lot of the MAC champions have great years, and, but no one except one team comes out the pure winner. So when you say, aren't kids that go to 7-3 or 8-3 teams losers, that's a pretty big brush to paint with a lot of kids. I think ideally you want to go to a program that's the top of your conference and play for someone that's probably 8-3 and above. It's those 3-7 or 3-8 programs that you kind of got to watch out for, that you don't want to get stuck there, because your development will get stunted at places like that because the guys around you are not going to help you look good. If you're a linebacker trying to make tackles and guys are running free down the sidelines, you're not making very many tackles. There's a lot of examples for how you could look bad being on a bad team. So, yeah, but anymore, I worry that it's the money. I'm the cynical one here. If you had a meter that said, hey, like Brian Hartline is one of the best recruiters in the country, it's not even close. The kids love him. He's the most relatable. He's young. He's fun. He can talk to these guys. I'm worried that, he doesn't matter as much because it used to be all about guys like that. If you had a guy like that, that was like giving a kid a $5 million NIL deal. The playing for a guy like that at a school at Ohio State, that was the prize. But with money, it's really changed the thinking and changed the scheme of these things. So I think winning falls down below that. I think it's coaching and facilities and chance to play for a winner. Those all factor in. But NIL has slowly risen to the top where winning might be the 4th, 5th thing sometimes for kids. I mean, Miami of Florida isn't exactly winning, and Tennessee isn't exactly, and they are signing big time players because of one thing. So, yeah, long answer. Yeah, money is going to be more important than winning.
I think winning is important to most kids, but I think it's an individual thing. Winning may be more. Everybody has their list of things they're looking for in a college. One kid might have NIL at the very top, winning second, education third, and so on. Another kid might have those in a different order. It just depends on the kid. They all have different things that they're looking for, but generally speaking, everybody wants to win. But point blank, if you go to Ohio State, you're at a different winning level than if you go to, say, Michigan State. There's a difference there. Michigan State, maybe you could sneak into the playoffs. Ohio State, that unless something crazy happens, you're going, especially with where the playoff system is now, you're going to the playoffs. So, I think I saw Dietrich say winning is extremely important to them. And that is a priority for them, where playing time might be a high priority for someone else. We used the Bob Hitchens example on Tuesday. He wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. Some want to be a small fish in a big pond. It just depends on the kid.
And then, another definition of winning is personal selfish winning. There you go. Like, yeah, I got $300,000 to go to a mid-tier college, but I could have got $25,000 to be on Ohio State's roster. I might not have played. I might have been a backup, but I would have went to national championships. But, what's winning? Like, hey, I'm driving around in a Benz and I got a big house and I'm in college. Is that winning? So, winning on the field and winning in your banking account, like Bill said, those could be measured differently. Some people sleep well having $500,000 in the bank, and some people sleep well knowing they're going to be playing for a winner.
I wouldn't know what that's like, Mark. You can probably tell us all about that, as you look like you're about to doze off there. Anyway, I do think it's a case-by-case basis thing, like Bill said, and I want to stress this. This is the begin. I've said this several days, so much like Cowboys chatter, it's coming back to you. This is the beginning of the process. We don't really know how the NIL is going to affect 5-10 years down the line. And the big question you're getting is, it's happening in basketball more quickly because I think the rosters are smaller. You only have 5 guys on the court as opposed to having fill theoretically 22 spots in special teams. But the question has become, like, I heard someone say yesterday on a great CBS basketball podcast that there's a top 25 basketball coach who said, I'm no longer recruiting freshmen at all. With football, I don't think you can do that, obviously, because you need to fill the spots. But I also think this, and I'll use the Sanchez family as the example. No matter what recruiting process you set up, whether you pay everyone $1 million or pay them nothing, Devin Sanchez is going to be at the top of the list. So I'm not sure that counts. The question is the guys who actually have a decision to make. Devin Sanchez, and I'm not trying to put pressure on them, can honestly look at the thing right now and pick a college based on who's going to get him to the NFL and very high. Not every kid who goes to college is going to do that. However, at Ohio State, you can pitch to every kid that you recruit that you're going to go to the NFL. And I promise you, 5 or 6 years from now, there's going to be a 30 for 30 made on kids that got the big NIL check early and are now like broke too. They did broke about the pros. They're going to do broke about the NIL too. People who don't have a lot of money, if you gave me $2 million right now, guess what we wouldn't have on Tuesday? A podcast. Okay. So things can change.
You might not have a family by next Tuesday.
Speak for yourself, dude. I outkick the coverage. But seriously, so let's see how this materializes. The good news I'm trying to get by there is that Ohio State's not going to ever stop recruiting the best of the best. And if you look at the teams that end up winning, I really honestly believe this down the road, it's going to be the teams that got the best guys that didn't transfer. I love having Quinshon Judkins on the team, believe me. But the guys who came here as a freshman, played 3 years as studs and left and were top draft picks, that's what it's going to be built on. Bill, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I want to add one other thing, too, that we haven't really even – well, we mentioned it a little bit, but I talk to these kids a lot. I've always, in my 30-plus years, whatever, I've always loved talking with kids. That's why I was a high school coach and teacher. So I talk to these kids a lot, and I can tell you probably the thing that every kid that Ohio State is recruiting virtually mentions to me is they figure they're going to the NFL.
In 3 years.
Every one of them. Well, after my Ohio State career in the NFL, they all talk about that. And that's another huge factor in decisions. Development and getting to the NFL. They all think they're going to get to the NFL if they go to Ohio State. Unfortunately, they won't. Most of them will get a shot. A lot of them will get a shot, but they won't all go to and make it in the NFL. But they know at a place like Ohio State, they've got a great, great chance when it comes to development.
You know, this is something I've talked to the college coaches about, and Dan, you said this will be built on the guys that come in and are gone in 3 years. The proverbial 5-star that has the talent, and freshman year he's getting a little bit of love. Sophomore year he does something, and then that junior year, boom, go ahead.
It'll be built if you want to win a championship.
Yeah. So
I'm not saying every program could do that, but I'm telling you.
I'm using your building block to make this point. You're right. You need those guys at Ohio State. You need that top line talent. But when I was talking to the college coaches, they said that third, fourth year senior that worked for 3 or 4 years and grinded within the program, lifted with Coach Mariotti for 3 or 4 years. What do you think he's developed into? Probably better than a 5-star. And we can't discount that it might be like a 75-25, where 25 or 30% of that roster, maybe 60-40, are going to be these grinders that have been brought in and paid their price. And why these stars have come in and gone, they're there. And you saw a lot of that with that extra year for COVID, fifth-year seniors. You saw a lot of senior-heavy programs that had a lot of development, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of guys that had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their craft. Does that trump a freshman who's, got some juice to him and everything, but this kid is a man. He's so I think that's the other key component to building at Ohio State. And I think let's see how that plays out in a couple of years. And just while we were talking about roster construction, you can't pay everybody 5-star money. You can't give everyone the max deal in the NFL or NBA. There's going to have to be the yeoman worker types that come in on rookie minimums. I just saw Jamal Adams, the NFL safety that was big time, is playing on a veteran minimum as his 12th or 15th year in the NFL. That's how rosters are built. You need guys that come in and do that.
Helps when you've already been overpaid, and you get to sign for the minimum when you got $12 million in the bank. All right. Mark, mega slow, read my mind as you were talking there. Just described 2023 school up north. By the way, Quinn Ewers, interviewed at SEC Media Days, referred to Michigan as that school up north. So it was a terrible transfer in and of itself. He did that. That's actually pretty funny.
That's why on our board it was posted, I now like Quinn Ewers again.
People are bummed out he transferred retrospectively. All right. At least we're not biased. But that's a good explanation. So I'm not sure who pointed this out. I think it's another podcast, the one they do with, and I apologize to these guys. It's the Cleveland guys, but they had a list of who actually plays in the games. So Ohio State's roster 1 to 75 or 1 to 80, 40 through 80, we're better than everybody because our depth is crazy. But last year, if you look Michigan 1 to 40, which is essentially the people who play, they were as good. And that's because of what Mark said. They had so many guys stay in the program that those 30 to 40 were like 25-year-old construction workers. and guys who move your fridge into your house when you can't do it because you got a bad back. They're great in the middle of a college defensive line. I'm trying to be funny here, obviously.
No, that is exactly what I want to say. Right. These are grizzled men. Some of them have children.
Right.
And I remember when I played college football freshman year, there were a few seniors that were married with a kid, and you're like, what? You know, like I'm just coming out of high school. You guys are like playing for food money and playing for, you know, like livelihoods. And there's, you know, boy, I thought I had a lot on the line, but it was just fun being recruited and going through this whole process. I didn't realize that this was life or death. And so I think you're right. These are the blue collar guys. And someone put a comment in there about the heart. Boy, I mean, a 3-star with heart that's been there for a few years. Boy, to a 5-star who just walked. What do you think that 3-star wants to do to that 5-star his first day on campus? Give him a kiss? Put his arm around him. He's going to try to kill him.
I think you made a great point on there just about stars. Now, personally, I'm not a stars guy. I know some people are like, he's a 5-star. That's just personally, to me, it's just not my thing. I get it. But I think you make a great point. You come in as a 5-star 18-year-old kid. I don't care how good you are. A guy that Ohio State wanted who's 21, 22 years old is going to knock your blank in the dirt, okay? Routinely. So the star system is over once you hit campus, man. I can tell you that for a fact. I can't use the name, but I can I've covered the NFL a little bit, and I've covered college. They know day one if they've screwed up on you, on some guys. Okay, I'll tell this story because it's about Desmond Howard. Desmond Howard was, I think, the 6th pick in the draft. He was picked by the Redskins when they were called the Redskins, and the Redskins had just won the Super Bowl. Day one, they walk off the field, and they were asked about Desmond, and a prominent Redskin turned to the guy and said, "Can't play." And he's like, "It's been one practice." He's like, "He can't play. Can't play receiver. Can't get off the jam." By the way, Desmond Howard I think he was out of the league before he became a return specialist again. So it's a big jump, and grown men are waiting for you to take what you got. And like Mark said, 5-stars don't enter without publicity, okay? They know you're coming, and you have a bullseye on you. And one example I like to also give is there was an offensive lineman who came to Ohio State that I was told had never really played against real guys. And he was fine blocking other offensive linemen. The first time he had to pick up a blitzing linebacker who was like 22 years old, they said the back of his head hit the ground first. Okay? That was what the problem was. He was just shocked.
Yeah.
I can't tell you his name, but
no,
all right. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into this discussion and go real deep on this. And you said it. You're like, I'm not a stars guy. And I don't want to get into a digression, but John Oliver is on HBO, and I think HBO is owned by AT&T. And he's constantly tempting them to fire him by making fun of AT&T. And I think you and I are the same, because anytime we see rankings, we're like, we don't like the rankings, but we work for a company that is doing rankings. So it's like, we're gonna get fired. Yeah, like we're telling you as guys that work for a rankings company that sometimes the rankings are wrong. We know they're wrong. We do it. And here's the out. Is we use the information, the best information we have today, to make the decision, but we also reserve the right that information changes on a dime. Mm-hmm. It changes when you go against real men for the first time. You can only base your information on what you've seen. Bill and I are at games, and we can tell you exactly what we've seen. But when that kid steps on a football campus with grown-ass men, we can also tell you that things have changed. And we've also told you at camps, this kid looks bigger, this kid looks stronger, the Armstrong's twin developing. I reserve the right to change my evaluation any day. So working for a company that does rankings, it's funny when we're like, yeah, be careful when we say 5-star, and Bill's talking about different levels of 5-stars. So I think we're being very honest as a group of men, telling our fans and our podcast people that, hey, guys, we do rankings for a living, but we know the nature of this beast very well. And yeah, at the end of the day, we just want to be honest with you about what we're doing and how we do it and why it doesn't always work out.
listen, there are other factors that also go into this. You're away from home for the first time. Maybe you're not a great student and you're having to spend more time on your academics, so you're not getting as much sleep, blah, blah, blah. I could tell you a million stories about kids at college at any level. So we're really on the outside for a lot of this. All right, Bill.
I had an NFL player in college sneak out of doubles in the middle of the night. And the story was when he got home, he went to bed and his dad took his truck, put it in the front yard with a for sale sign, and gave him. There were applications on the kitchen table the next morning for the jobs he was ready to go do. 3 days later, he was back in college and he was an NFL player a couple years later. But he missed his girlfriend. That was it. Yeah. Just wanted to go back home and missing home. So yeah, doesn't matter if you're an NFL guy or not.
Guess who almost left early in his freshman year because he missed his girlfriend theoretically? This is
Dallas
Chris Olave. Chris Olave.
Oh,
all right.
Not Dallas.
Bill, last question. Bill, we're bringing it back to recruiting.
I saw that one and I thought you were going to pick that out.
Bill, because you were dozing off up there.
No.
Are we still pursuing Hill, Brew, Bowman? And does Fry have a backup plan if he misses on Sanders Jr.? If you could kind of take that from the top, add first names, and finish it off, we'd be thankful.
Yeah, Justin Hill. They're going to make another run at him. That was a close decision. That wasn't. In fact, Justin told me, I was at his announcement. He told me point blank, he didn't make his final decision, and he made the announcement on Wednesday, 1:00, and he told me he did not make his final decision until Tuesday night. So Ohio State is not going to just say, okay, sorry, we missed that. Yeah, they're going to make another run at him. Next one, I believe, was Preston Bowman. What's that? Dorian Brew. As far as I know, they have not gone back on him. I think they'll at least kick the tires to see, especially as things change. During the season, things can and sometimes do change. Preston Bowman, they absolutely are recruiting him. I think that there are two wide receivers that I think could still end up joining this class. Phillip Bell from California, who will end up at either USC or Ohio State. I've said that for a long time. And then Preston Bowman, who will end up at either Kentucky, where he's committed, or Ohio State. I had to decide him in what I am hearing not too long ago. I do tend to think, from what I'm told, that Preston Bowman will likely make an official visit to Ohio State during the season. That's not set in stone, but from what I'm told, I think that there's a very reasonable chance that could happen. So we'll see. But they are absolutely still recruiting him. I think that's all the players that were named: Justin Hill, Dorian Brew, Preston Bowman. Does Fry have a backup plan? I will tell you that Mark Piantoni is as good as it gets in this business. And he is as good as it gets if things don't go Ohio State's way the first time, of getting more options for the coaches and having a plan in place. They don't have to have it right now, but you can bet that Mark Piantoni is working on all possibilities. If Ohio State gets Sanders, if they don't get Sanders, they will have another plan, so to speak, that they go to, and Mark Piantoni will spearhead that.
Hollywood Hager. I had a basketball kid that played for me about 100 games. Recruiting series had a tough time. Basketball is a different breed of cat. We'll have for those of you paying for the premium version when we sign off on C-SPAN, we'll talk about that after the show. But Bill, I have a question for you. This will be the last question. DJ Pickett, one of the top cornerbacks in the country, verbally committed yesterday, I believe, to LSU. He was down to LSU and Oregon. There was a vibe that had he picked Oregon, maybe that would dissuade Trey McNutt from committing to Oregon. Now it appears all roads are clear for Trey McNutt to commit to Oregon. Do you believe that's what will happen this weekend, as I am legally obligated to mention Trey McNutt on the show, and now he's going to commit, and we're going to have to talk about him anymore? I wanted your comment.
Well, I do think, as things stand right this minute, that he will announce for Oregon. And I also don't think that will be the end of talking about Trey McNutt. His name will come up again. And again, he has told me previously that he said when he wasn't sure when he was going to make his decision, I point blank asked him, if you make a decision without making an official visit to Ohio State, which is now the case. He hasn't made an official visit to Ohio State. He is going to make his decision at the end of this week. So I point blank asked him, if you make a decision without making an official visit to Ohio State, would you still make an official visit to Ohio State? And the answer at that point came back in the affirmative. Now, things can change, but that is the answer he had given me before, that he would still plan on making official visits to Ohio State. Do we know for sure that's going to happen? No, but that's what he has talked about previously. And after he makes his decision, providing it is not for Ohio State, and I don't think it will be, but providing it is not, as things stand now, I'll be talking to Trey, of course, and keeping in touch with him. I know him pretty well, and I know his dad pretty well. I'll be keeping in touch with him to see if maybe he does go ahead and do that official visit to Ohio State later down the road.
One piece of information I'm very curious about is once a guy verbally commits, so essentially I think we can all agree that means he's also somewhat agreed to his NIL package. How easy is it to go back on that now when you've agreed to some kind of financial setup? I'm going to get the answer to that, and I won't be able to attribute it to an individual, but I will get it tomorrow night because the foundation is having their kickoff event. It's going to be incredible. There's going to be Brian Schottenstein, Cardale Jones, Ryan Day, and the whole crew will be there. All the coaches, everybody, tons of players. So I'm going to ask them off the record what happens when someone does that. I'll come back with the answer. If you are attending the foundation event, please come by and say hello. Love to meet you. Love to chat. Love to talk about raising money for the foundation and go from there. I know you don't sign until you NIL, but I'm wondering if there's like some kind of verbal agreement there, and how does that affect it? And is it something where they come back and say, oh yeah, I did verbal, now I want an extra $1 million? But I digress. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I know we got a little spiritual and philosophical there, and Mark likes it too. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good one. Nutters.